Good morning. Our hand today is going to be Pocket Kings. I'm in the small blind. This is a 10 NL game, and it folds to me. And I've raised pretty widely, so I've open raised to 4 big blinds. Just my standard raise. Button calls. Note his fold to steal 75%. 75%. He's playing 20% VPIP, 3% raise. Big blind plays 16% of hands. When we look at facing a raise, 3 out of 15 he has called, and in this steal percentage, it's looking at 67% he folds to steal. 1 out of 3 he calls to steal. First time he's really faced second time he's faced a small blind opened. So we're looking at his range. This is 28%. This is probably a little too wide. I think if we narrow it down a little bit to get down to about 20%, it might be a little bit better. So we get some of these out, and now we're at about 20%. So that's probably his range. I'm gonna assume he raises kings plus and ace king. He does have 3% pre-flop raise stat. Let's see here. Do I have anything on here? Let's get this. It's not showing it here. Got a donk range, limp called, a 3-bet, really positioned with 3-2 of hearts. Yeah, aces, 3-bet range, 4+ range is aces. So yeah, he could call with queens. Kings might be generous, but we'll exclude them, especially since we have 2 of them. So we go to a flop of queen jack 5. Not too bad. I've got a club, so that could bail us out if we happen to be behind. We did raise. Question is, do we c-bet here or do we check? Which way gets us the most money? I feel like we should be c-betting here, and I think we're going to be c-betting our sets, our 2-pair, I think our overpairs. I think most of our top pair. I think the low top pair we're probably not c-betting, so maybe queen 8 plus. Queen 9 plus. We're doing this for value because I think a jack's going to call. You've got straight potential, you got flush potentials. I think there's a lot of draws that are going to call us. So we want to get some money in the pot because draws will be calling, and we know that they'll probably won't be calling with the proper pot odds. So I think top pair, and then what kind of draw are we betting? I think we bet flush draw. I think we do our open enders. I think we do our gut shots. I think 2-card backdoor flush draws are probably check calls. It'll be part of our check call range with these hands. I think we're probably also betting ace king. Yeah, it's part of our gut shots. Yeah, it's part of our gut shot. So I think that's what we're going to be c-betting. Let's see if I do. Nope, I checked. I think this might be a mistake. I think we could get ourselves into trouble here because we check, and then against an aggressive villain who's going to bet, they should be betting here. After we checked, they should be betting fairly widely. So, when we check, I'm thinking they're betting all of these hands, all pair plus, all of their draws, including backdoor flush draws here. You're looking at 91%. There's really only a few hands. Anything that doesn't connect with the board, I think, is what you're going to check. And then, they bet, and then on a safe card, if I check again, they should be blasting, and it's going to be hard for me to call. I have to really think, do they have 2 pair? Do they have just 1 pair hands? Do they have a draw themselves? I think when they fire that turn of the river, then we could probably fold. Against this guy, he doesn't seem to be super aggressive. I mean, he does c-bet a lot. He c-bets basically every time. Fires 3 barrels. And that's probably because he has a much stronger range when he opens. But that doesn't mean he's going to float. So let's check our float stats. Yeah, 0 out of 1. So he does bet. So let's go back to my range here. We kind of took out those cards. Let's add what our check calling range will be. So right now, I disagree with how I played. I think I probably understand where I'm thinking, you know, we're not really vulnerable to the overpairs. We're vulnerable to the ace. However, I think you've got straight and you've got your flush draw. So, and I think that's going to be the better, the better approach. So I think we're going to be doing our 2-card backdoor flush draws. But we're going to be excluding those, excluding our flush, open-enders, gut shots. I think that's it. So you're going to see that we're kind of a weak range once we check, and that's, I think we want to maintain a strong range here. So we've got villains hand like that. I'm sure we're going to have my hand like this. Are there times for a check raise? Yeah, I think you can mix in some check raises, and I think you could include check raises with like, you know, King 10 of clubs, 10 9 of clubs, maybe like Ace 10 of clubs, possibly Ace King of clubs. Maybe you can mix in a small chance with like Kings and Aces. That could also work, but I'm sure I didn't do that here, and I didn't. So I just called. Don't like this play. I think we should be c-betting this board. Ace of clubs. So ace of clubs would have posed a little bit of problems had we c-bet, but I think we fire again. Villain's gonna have to think. Well, you know, if he has a queen, they're gonna be thinking, do I have the ace or not? So we put him to a test. And he might say, I don't believe you have the ace, and call again. You know, just be stubborn. For us, we still have a good pair, and we now have the nut flush draw. So once we checked, we are checking everything. I don't see any need to bet here, and what we are looking at doing is check calling top pair, 2 pair. I think 2 pair we're probably going to be leading on the river. I think we're probably calling middle pair and 3rd pair. I think the weak pair we just give up. The 3rd pair is just, I'm going to base it on his bet sizing. If he bets like half pot or less, I'm calling. If he raises, I call. So like he did half pot here. If he raises this to, you know, bets like 12, you know, 75% pot or something like this, I'm just going to fold the jacks. And then I'm calling my flush draws second. Probably the 3rd nut. I think the 3rd nut is the 10 of clubs. Only the jack and the king beat us. I think I'd probably call the 3rd. I think all of the weaker ones I do not. At this point, I don't call the gut shots. So that would be my check calling range. I do check, and then villain checks behind. So now I have 100% of my range. He doesn't. So I think he would continue betting the flush, but a player like this probably is not betting the straight or sets or 2 pair for fear that he is now behind. I also think he might have the flush draws as well. Yeah. So I'm excluding the flush. Board scary. The ace came out. He's just going to check behind. So now the jack comes out, jack of spades. I think now we lead. He gave up. We lead our full house. We lead our 3 of a kind. I even lead our top pair here. We go for value, and I think I go for middle pair with value, and then our weak pair and nothing hands help balance it. So I think I'm just going to throw something like this out there. I don't mind if he folds. We've got 57% weak cards. I think middle pair we call. We're betting. I think a jack might call, or like another queen might call. I think the queen 2, queen 3, queen 4 is probably more towards a bluff, whereas the king queen, queen 10 is probably a little bit more towards value oriented. So I think that's what I should be leading. Pot 16, I should be leading like up to 12 to 16, and I didn't. I think I missed that. Villain bet 16. That seems like a strange lead here for the size. This I don't think it's a full house or quads. I don't think it's a flush. I don't know why a straight would bet this. I don't think he'd bet as large with these. I don't think they'd bet 16. He could. I don't have information on his bet sizing. But I think this is more like a middle pair, weak pair, and there's a lot of weak pairs in his range. I just feel like some of these hands, it would be it would be a smaller bet because the board is so scary. And it's like, why wouldn't you? If you had the flush, why didn't you bet the turn? So I think it's gonna be like one of these weak pair or nothing hands. Middle pair, weak pair, nothing hands is what that's looking like. So I called, and if that's the case, if I think that's his hand, then I think we call middle pair plus. Probably maybe top pair plus. But again, I don't like how I played this hand at all. I did call. He shows 10s. So that is, I have that as middle pair, and it makes sense. I mean, we checked, he bet. I think he still calls the flop. Probably doesn't call the turn, so we made more money on this, but I don't like how I played just against standard, players. I don't like it. I think we do better by leading here and getting called by all of the draws. And yeah, the flush draw gets there, but straight draw might not. Straight draw could have 10-9 and they still miss. So we're going to take a note on this player. We did have kind of estimate his range. I did it by the time it came out. I kind of estimated that weak to middle pair. So BvB, call for BB big blind with 10 diamond, 10 hearts, and then he bet 50%, check, bet 100% on a queen of clubs, jack of diamonds, 5 of clubs, ace of clubs, jack of spades. All right, so don't like this hand, should have c-bet it, and as played, I think we should have just gone ahead and bet the river. He probably folds, but that's okay, because again, when we go back to our range, we're going to have 57% bluffs, weak hands that we can't beat. So yeah, we should have bet here, and the kings help kind of balance our range. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.